Today's Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. Got a good show for you today. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Elevator Radio Show, a weekly podcast dedicated to news and information for the entire elevator industry. Whether you're a contractor, consultant, inspector, manufacturer, or mechanic, this show has a little something for everyone. In addition to covering our industry's latest news stories, we also take a look at the various elevator-related items for sale on eBay. Someone's trash is another's treasure. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, this is Tom Seibert, and it is good to be here for another week of our fun that we're having with what's going on in the world that we live in today, unfortunately. So it is good to be back. I almost, I was thinking last night, I'm like, what am I going to talk about on the show? Because really, when you think about our industry and anything that we think might be relevant to it, it just is somewhat overshadowed by the coronavirus and COVID-19 and just what's going on in our world that we live in today, which is going to fundamentally change in the future. And I found that out as I attempted to go to Home Depot on Sunday morning, and I was lucky enough to not have to wait in a line, but I did witness the line outside the building with the X's and the pylons and then the workers inside who were dressed in hazmat suits. And I got to tell you, it did not feel good at all to be in that store. At all. I mean, to the point where literally I went in there. They couldn't get me a lumber cart. They didn't have the lumber I needed anyway. I just kind of looked around and I'm like, I'm out of here. I just do not. If that is the way we are going to be shopping in the world, man, I want no part of it. Just want no part of it. And, it's just crazy. And I understand the precautions that they're trying to take, but like, what consultant? How does a company that big come out and say we're gonna practice social distancing? We're gonna allow so many people in a store. We're going to do everything they possibly can do. And you wonder whether or not, who's providing that information that would give them reason for them to make those types of decisions. And there's other places that are doing that as well. But Home Depot has aisles that are literally 15 feet wide in most cases. Some of them, the narrowest might be 8, might be 10. So I just, you've got that going on. And then at the grocery stores, you pretty much don't have a lot of anything going on other than just X's on the floor and trying to avoid people as you walk down an aisle. It's just freaking nuts is what I'm trying to get at. And it's exhausting at the same time. So I hope that in your neck of the woods, you're coping with all of this the best that you can. It is not easy by any means. And as each day progresses, it just seems like we are not getting closer to seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And the reality is that if we are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, it might be a big freight train running us down. So just continue to remain as safe as you possibly can. Take those steps to make sure your family is safe. I'm not trying to make light of this situation or the virus whatsoever. I do believe in my heart that we're going to find in months from now that this virus was here in November, this virus was here in December. I am certain that my family had it. I'm certain that my neighbors had it. I think our neighbors gave it to us. And the reality is at the time they had no test to test for it. And as we all talk about trying to flatten the curve, which is vitally important, I don't want to see anybody die. I don't want to see any elderly people die. I don't want to see anybody die as a result of this virus. That curve and that how the data that they're compiling is, to me, it's important, but those numbers that are coming through now are related to tests that are being administered in larger quantities than they had been back in March. I don't think any in January, maybe some in January. I don't really think so. So the reality is that obviously those numbers are going to continue to increase the more people that are tested, and we might find at the end of the day that we all possibly had this thing a long time ago. So just put that in perspective. I can't tell you enough that if you were to sit down in your chair and you thought to yourself, you know what, I probably had it, or I might have had it, it's a big sigh of relief, right? To me, I'm like, wow, I feel pretty good now. I feel pretty good knowing that I was either exposed to somebody that might have had it or whatever. And again, that's the yin of one way of thinking about it. The other way is being terrified that, you might get it and obviously be affected depending on what your health conditions are. If you have some impending issues that might make things more complicated or create complications that could be very dire for your health. So again, do whatever you possibly can to fight off any virus, any bacteria, any kind of germ that wants to invade your body. The reality is we have antibodies in our body that fight these things that enter into our system. That's what their job is to do. So it's just common sense. Wash our hands, make sure we're not touching our eyes and our mouth and our nose. And again, it's difficult to do that all the time, but it is important to try to remember as much as you can. So let's just hope that the more time goes on, the closer we get to ending this. And it's frustrating because my son, I got 3 boys at our home. I love them to death. It's great to have them home, and just unfortunately, it's under these circumstances. But my oldest Zach is a skateboarder, and he was just trying to go, get some exercise and blow off some steam as he's trying to do e-learning from home. And so he ended up going to 3 different skate parks, which he was promptly kicked out by police immediately. He was the only one there. So the reality is that at what point do we just frickin', stop some of this stuff from happening to the point where, some common sense can be applied to it. If you're the only one skateboarding in a skate park, is that okay? It should be okay. I mean, are they concerned coronavirus is going to get on the ramps and then some other person's going to be infected? Are they going to disinfect the entire world? What the heck? It's like, and that's the frustrating part of this whole thing, especially when there's so much. It's so difficult to do in some cases what's being asked. So on the work level, or company level, trying to navigate as a business owner through the stimulus money and see what's available and what might not be available. It is a cluster. I can just tell you that right now. For those of you who may think like, oh, the businesses are getting off, or it's going to be easy for them to sustain whatever they can sustain. That's not the case. There are going to be more businesses going out of business. There are going to be more people unemployed. There are going to be some pretty major ramifications that are going to affect all of us long term, and that's truly what I'm most scared about. And we'll just see what happens. We'll just try to do our best to make it through together. I'm not sure how it's going to affect our industry, which companies are going to go out, what's going to happen. Hopefully we all can help each other in trying to get through this the best that we possibly can, and it's all we can do. I know from a personal protective side of work, we are having a difficult time trying to get some of those supplies as we start to run out of them, but we have a great team working on that. So so that's pretty much it. Increased our sanitation schedule. We are cleaning. We are keeping ourselves apart from each other. We're doing everything possibly that we can to try to minimize any kind of external anything coming into the building here at work, and trying to just keep everybody safe. That's all we can possibly do. That's all we can do. On another side note, I kind of got pulled into the Facebook world, which again, I'm not a big fan of it. I think I kind of fell off the Facebook wagon. I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago. It just got a little bit too much to try to, read stuff, and then you get pulled into stuff. But man, I was watching the governor speak of Illinois on Monday. He had a press conference, and then I was watching it through Facebook because I was having a problem with the feed through the YouTube channel or their website. And the comments that were posted that just kept rolling through were just, oh my gosh. They were so negative and positive and naive and stupid all at the same time. And it was like, you wonder if you were at that press conference, okay, and those same people that were commenting the way that they were commenting, if they would do the same thing if they were sitting in the chairs right next to each other or 6 feet away or whatever. That's my question. It's just ugly. On top of it, I try not to watch the news. I just try not to watch the news. I feel like they do a poor job of truly trying to paint the picture of what's going on. And that's unfortunate. I think they are adding to the hysteria and the panic that has ensued because of this in a way that I don't think is very helpful. So I don't watch the news after learning, after basically watching the governor speak, of Illinois, watching the COVID-19 task force from the White House speak, and then accidentally tuning into the news that basically took, both of whatever they shared out of context to the point where it was like, that's not what they said. So I encourage you to get your own information directly from, those two briefings so that you can make your own decision. They talk for a while. I mean, they talk for like an hour. And you can hear the reporters asking questions that you might want to ask and stuff like that. So please do your part and try to educate yourself the best you can and make your own conclusions. If you have questions, go out there online and try to figure that stuff out. Don't just take what, somebody on Facebook posted and said that, we're all going to die or whatever the deal is, because there's so much stupid stuff out there that literally, if we just took a step back, applied some common sense, we wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't be in a position where we, government's making us all stay inside. I mean, it should be common sense. We should all be able to take care of ourselves in a way that we don't need somebody shutting the economy down to get to that step. And I'm not taking any light. I'm not making light of this at all. My parents are older. I don't want them to catch the virus. I don't want them to endure any of that kind of thing. So I'm not making light of it. But at the same time, I question what's being done. I mean, it's, to try to minimize or flatten the curve, as they say. Grocery stores are not closed down. They're packed with people. I don't even go there anymore. That's an experience that just stinks. I mean, and if that's a world, I just don't know if we're ever going to get back to some type of normalcy. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I just don't. And elevators they're confined spaces. I mean, if it's going to affect us all. I mean, it's going to affect us all. We've common touched, items in elevators that are going to require extra maintenance, extra disinfectants, maybe even new products that help, basically kill that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's just, so that's where we're at. And I'm just frustrated. And I'm hoping, I'm looking forward to the show that I give, that I produce, that we can say, yeah, we're on the upswing here. We're getting to the point where, we're going to be okay in a couple weeks, couple months. And I'm just not seeing that yet. So just hang in there the best that you possibly can. And that's all any of us can do. And just remember that you are in control of how you react, how you think of your situation right now. And no matter how dire it might be, it is probably not as bad as you think it is. Okay, you just take a step back. And I'm not talking about like a step back. I'm talking about take a step back. If you think that things in your life couldn't get any worse, take a step back. Take a block step back. Take a mile step back and really look at what you have. And I think you're going to find that it's not as bad as you really think. There are people out there that are definitely having a much larger, a much bigger problem and issue with some of the stuff that they're dealing with in life. So that's all I have to say on all of that. And if anything is misconstrued or misinterpreted or misunderstood, I don't mean for that. I am just trying to vent to you, my friends, my family, my industry family, in a way that, yes, I'm concerned about the virus. I am concerned about the virus. I'm concerned about the flu. I'm concerned about any kind of sickness that will cause somebody respiratory, failure. I am definitely concerned about that. I will take steps that I need to ensure that happens. Not making light of that at all. Okay, this is a serious situation. It definitely is a serious situation, especially in New York, especially New Jersey, Chicago, and other areas as that starts to grow. Not making any light of that at all, but at the same time, the damage that's being done just economically is, I don't know if it will ever bounce back. I just don't know. It will just, time will tell, and I don't think we're going to be able to throw enough money at anything to make it or turn it back on. I'm not sure that's going to happen. And that's kind of the frustration I feel for not only older people that are dealing with this whole thing, but they have retirement savings or funds, in the stock market that have just pretty much tanked. So that's unfortunate as well. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. So, hey, on a good note, I want to wish somebody a happy birthday. Good friend in California. I've done this before. And so Julie, thank you for listening, and thank you for being my friend. I wish you the happiest birthdays of them all. That's a good, positive thing. You enjoy your Saturday, and wish we could be there celebrating that with you. So I love you. We love you. My family loves you. Just want to let you know that. So anyway, okay. So we'll get into the news. We don't have a ton of stuff to talk about today. Some of the information that was that I did find is actually older. So let's see here if I can figure out how to get everything back here. But I think it was still important to share. So just as a reminder, Consumer Reports has an article, "You touch public surfaces all day. Here's how to stay safe from coronavirus," or any virus for that matter, or any kind of flu or whatever. I mean, just practical information. You got ATM machines, you got credit card machines, you got money you touch, all that good stuff. So I don't mean to laugh about this. I saw a video on online somebody posted where somebody posted next to some urinals in a bathroom, men's bathroom, and it said, make sure to stand 6 feet away. Okay, so the video shows somebody standing 6 feet away trying to pee into a urinal, which hence to say didn't make it, but and that was a good chuckle. So laughter is also a good thing to do as well. Watch some TV, watch some catch up on some series, watch Game of Thrones. Just try to get your mind off this as best you can, and while being safe at the same time. Next article: extra efforts for cleaning are being taken, and this is an article linking to New York Curbed website. This is another thing I found just to get off the subject a little bit, with the way that the internet and news is shared online. My goodness, there are so many ads and stupid things that pull you into, if you want to find out these actresses, what they look like now, click on this. All with upon sponsored content. It's just a bunch of just junk. I mean, talk about just junk that's out there online. It's very refreshing when you see a good or a pretty significant news source actually producing something that's a quality piece, instead of this cross-linking with all these stupid ads that had nothing to do with what they do. Anyway, so with the fact that many people are at home under home rule or whatever quarantine, a lot of them have questions about whether, what building owners are doing to ensure that buildings are being disinfected and cleaned and whatnot. And that's a very good question to ask. I think, if you're a business owner or building owner, you should take steps to ensure that equipment and everything is wiped down and whatnot. The problem is that disinfectants are getting more difficult to find and purchase. I found that it's hard to even buy spray bottles, like spray bottles that you can mix yourself. I found that out yesterday. I'm just trying to get the spray bottles. We were able to get some of the disinfectant in the big 5-gallon buckets just to have, and not that we use a ton of it, but if the shortages that we're seeing, sorry about that with the website, the shortages we're seeing are on that level width-wise, we're going to continue to see issues with shortages until they're able to produce more. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. There's no definitive date on when disinfectants are going to be back on the shelf. And again, as I tell my guys in the shop, and they're like, "Hey, we don't have any more Lysol wipes." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Just we have the sprays. We have disinfectant stations around the shop. Grab a paper towel, and that will do the job that you need to do as long as you follow the instructions." And it's like a 5 ounce to 25 ounce mixture. It works great, and it's a good way of just making sure. And every day we wipe down our areas and commonly touched doorknobs. When you walk into the building, you have to. We have a couple Purell stations already that were already there. They have to, disinfect so they're not bringing anything in. So there's lots of steps we're taking to make sure everybody's safe because we are essential business. And but it's just there's going to come a time when we no longer can get Purell. We can't get it now, but we already had a bunch for our refill stations. But there's going to be a time you can't even refill those, and there's going to be a time when it's going to be difficult to get even the disinfectant. So it's interesting just to see how that trickles down, and it's just not toilet paper anymore. It's a bunch of stuff. So we'll just see. Next news article, elevator safety law awaits Governor Cuomo's signature. This is my question here. Back to that last article. It's important you communicate with people. If you own a building, make sure you're sharing with your tenants what steps are being taken to ensure that, equipment and the buildings are being as sanitized as much as possible. That's key, and even with your employees as well, just so they feel a little bit more certain about what's going on. Another thing we did at work is we set up security systems in place to ensure that people are safe inside the building, and for the most part, everybody seems to be pretty positive about it. So next news article. This one was April 5th, 2020, and not that New York has enough to worry about right now. This is definitely on the back burner, but I was under the impression that the elevator safety law actually passed and was a law, but apparently it's waiting Governor Cuomo's signature. And I'm not quite sure why. So, and I guess, and this is coming from a website called Grunt Stuff, so I don't know how legitimate that is or even what it is. And that's the problem with the internet and what it's become today. But I just don't get it. You've got a great city like New York City. It's going through what it's going through right now. It just makes me wonder, if. And it's a very dense populated area, but the reality is this is a great city. Why in the world can they not get this done? What is the issue? What is the deal with not passing this law to ensure people that ride elevators in New York City are safe? Can somebody explain that to me? Because it's just a bunch of BS. And if they have issue with this, setting up some type of system so that people are accountable and the hot dog vendor on the corner is not working on your elevator. I mean, and again, if somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the reality is why can't they do this? And so if they're, fighting this, it makes you wonder about everything else, at least for me. Are they handling this whole virus thing correctly? I just don't know. I don't know at what point is safety truly a concern? I mean, there have been fatalities. People have died when elevators have run with the doors open in New York. You think it should just be one? I mean, one should be enough to get this thing to just happen. And I don't, not to say that licensing is going to prevent that, but the reality is that it will definitely help in kind of making sure there's some type of checks and balances in place. So. And so your hot dog vendor, the guy that puts roofing on, isn't working on your equipment. Next article, this one was posted February 13th, so you probably saw this already. So just to preface that, but I-Team investigates New York, 2,000 New York City elevators tagged with violations after passing inspections. So city inspectors issuing violations just days after or weeks after private inspection companies gave elevators passing grades, which you kind of some of the problem with when you're talking about privatizing elevator inspections in some cases, or not licensing that part of it. So, and again, I don't pretend to know all about that, but at the end of the day, it has me questioning what New York City does on so many different levels, and I'm like, man, if they can't get this thing figured out. You know what I mean? And they should be the leader in what they do. I mean, in the steps that they take, and I just don't understand why that doesn't happen. Okay, Washington Post had a bunch of articles talking or covering residential elevators. This was posted on the 13th of February, 2020. Again, an older article, which you probably already read. It's kind of an investigative report in how the potential dangers inside elevators are definitely real for some of them, and how they could get injured and worse, killed. But this one is stemming or basically hitting the fact that regulators or the CPSC basically stepped away and said they couldn't, or they weren't going to require any kind of recalls for residential elevators. So. And there are a bunch of articles linked to this, and it is unfortunate. So I just encourage anybody who works on residential elevators, anybody who has a friend with a residential elevator, to take steps to ensure that your elevators have door baffles to ensure kids can't get stuck in between the gate and the door when the elevator moves, and to ensure that those elevators are never, ever used when there are kids in your building or in your home or in that home. And it's really important that they understand this, because it's just tragic on some of the accidents that have occurred involving children in home elevators. Okay, this next article has to do with the probably stupid question. Can you get COVID-19 from using an elevator? You could get any kind of disease or virus from touching anything, a doorknob, whatever. So I didn't want to tie the correct article link. I tied the article link to it, but I didn't want to give it any more press or link love based on it being defined as that headline. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, it's just stupid. You can get it from anything. So in the day that you got people going, yeah, it's you're going to get it from elevators, is a day we don't want that to happen. And you can get it from anything. So okay, still getting back into the swing of things here with all the stuff we got to go through with the website. Here we go. Okay. So this is cool. This was popped up on Facebook, and I just found out about this morning. Greg Zomchek from Kali Elevators started a GoFundMe page to help local hospitals, which is awesome. So if you want to donate to this is great. And it is really cool to see companies and people wanting to do whatever they can possibly do to help our essential workers and those that are fighting on the front lines. At our place, there was a call out for anybody with 3D printers, which we have too, and to make these things that hold the mask behind your head. And it's not exactly the same kind of PPE that you're talking about, but the number of people that came out to try to help out with that was pretty neat. So this is pretty cool, Craig. Thanks for doing what you do, and for everybody who donated to that cause. Hats off to you. Very cool. Craig ended up donating half of the amount that they raised to basically to help out two local hospitals here. Next news article, essential workers would get up to $25,000 boost under Senate Democrats' new HEROES Fund stimulus package. So, you know what? As our legislators try to take steps like this, we just got to get the economy back going again and ensure that our health workers are as safe as they possibly can be. I don't think money is necessarily going to make a difference in the world. There's already steps in place to ensure that those that have been affected by COVID-19 do receive 2 weeks of pay, possibly more, depending on the size of the company and whatnot. So, and the Family Leave Act and whether or not they qualify for that. But the point is that we just can't keep throwing money at stuff that, it's unless it's in dire need. And the reality is, I don't know if that's necessarily the case for these workers. And not to say that they should. I mean, it is frustrating. It is not easy necessarily to come into work and fall under some of that stress that you're at a place around people and you're not sure if, making every step, you're taking every step possible to make sure you're everything is clean and nobody's going to get sick. But the reality is it's still stressful. So next news article, new details on death of 3-year-old who fell from airport escalator. Okay, this is from December, so I apologize. I didn't get to see that the date before this. But just as a reminder, there were a couple videos online that I found that I did not post. One was of a little girl that got her hands pulled into an escalator door because she was playing with it, in front of her mom who was on her freaking phone. And basically she couldn't get out. Her mom's like pulling her hands out to trying to get her fingers out. That's a definite concern. That's terrible. And two, kids playing on an escalator mall, it's not good. Not good. So the reality is that please make sure you're watching your kids and they understand the seriousness of elevators, escalators, and not to play on them. It's so critical, and share that with anybody you possibly can. That's usually the first question that I I ask if I meet somebody new and they ask what I do, and I respond. I'm in the elevator industry, make elevator widgets and whatnot. And then I say, do you have kids? And then that leads me into a whole conversation about what make sure that they understand, never let their kids play in escalators, how to ride them safe. Elevators too. I'm not on the ESF board anymore, so I can definitely share all the stories in terms of what might happen. And usually it's pretty graphic, and usually it hits to the point. It's not a message that has fluff or doesn't share the consequences of those types of actions. So I specifically hit 4 or 5 items that they truly should be careful of, and why. And usually by the end of our conversation, they never want to talk to me again. Next news article, and again, the bottom line is just parents watch your kids. Next article, minimizing personal injuries at airports. It's coming from International Airport Review, and this comes down to with public areas being used as much as they are. They kind of talk about how to try to minimize these. You're always going to have lawsuits, but the reality is, I think the more that you educate the people and those that work at these locations to try to minimize injuries, I think that's critical. So, and that's one of the points that they definitely shared in that. Let's see here, and I got the photo I keep showing on the news on the website page, Elevator Riders Riding Club, and I talked about this last week. Was PSI Glenn Duncan basically has a photo of all these N95 masks that he's donated in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, which is awesome. So again, these are great personal stories and what people are doing to try to make a difference, which is awesome. Last news article of the show, and this is really important. This is an extremely stressful time, and in months ahead, I think we're going to see an uptick in suicides and other mental health related issues and consequences relating to this whole thing. And, make sure you're seeking out help if you need something more than a website page to tell you or try to share information on how to deal with it. Because, outbreaks can be stressful. This is coming from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and I read through this, and, stress during an infectious disease outbreak can include can include all of this stuff, which I think I'm dealing with all of it in there. Reality is that stress affects how healthy you are and how healthy I am. And so anything we can do to try to minimize that is, I think, the best thing to do, even though it might be literally very difficult or impossible to do that. But try to take care of yourself, try to take care of your family. And you know what? We can only live for today. We can only live in today's moment right now. We can't worry about the future to the point where it cripples us. And again, as hard as it is to turn that off in our heads, it's important that we cherish what we have right now. Live for now, and just live for now. That's all we have. That's all we can be certain of having. Not in the past, not yesterday, not what happened in January, not what our government did or did not do. What we have right now. That's the only thing you can be certain of. So try to put that in perspective. You can plan for the future, but don't let what's happened in the past define who you are right now, who you will be in the future. If you let it, it will define your path in the next months, years, and it may not be the path you want to go on. You are in complete control of yourself. You're driving your own bus. It may not be an easy road to drive through, but it's one that you have complete control over. Okay, so that's my parting wisdom with all of you, because I care about you and I want everybody to get out of this unscathed. But I'm certain that's a lofty goal. But if we all kind of mentally think that way, I think we can get there. So again, it's good to be back. I wish there was not, I wish it were under different circumstances, but it is good to be back. I miss so many of you, and thank you for the well wishes and the encouragement of being back. I greatly appreciate that. So everybody have a safe week. Wash your hands. Do not touch your eyeballs, your nose, your mouth if your hands are not washed, and keep looking after each other, and we'll get through this together. So take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.